All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to FREEWrite Friday. My name is Jessica Lynn Johnson, and I am the founder and CEO of Soaring Solo Studios, which is a company dedicated to the direction and development of one-person plays. So welcome to FREEWrite Friday. A little bit about me and my background. If you don't know me, I have been in this field for nearly 20 years. I toured with my own solo shows for 13 years. I've directed and developed well over 100 solo shows. It is my passion. I love this form of art. I am on the advisory board for the LA Women's Theater Festival and a blogger for NoHo Arts, which my article is about solo theater, of course, and it's called Soaring Solo. So you can look that up on the NoHo Arts website as well. And I'd love to hear from you. So feel free to put in the chat a hello, where you're tuning in from, where you're at in your solo theater development. Or maybe you're already up and touring and all of that, whatever the case might be, but say hello, get acquainted in the chat as I roll through some protocols and things like that. The mission for FREEWrite Friday is really just to create a supportive, safe space for us to come together in creative community and make progress on your solo shows, one free write at a time. This is going to be more of a heady experience for those of you who did my isolate, meditate, create. That was much more from subconscious mind, heart space, that sort of writing. And this is more focused on structure and plot points and formatting and things of that nature. So they're both really important. I think to create a solid solo show, we have to infuse both the head and the heart in the process. So this will be a nice balance to the isolate, meditate, create if you were a part of that experience. And if you missed isolate, meditate, create, which was a series where we just use meditation and visualization to then free write, you can catch up on my YouTube channel. There's 100 and something of them, I forget how many, but over 100 videos that are free on there. And the next FREEWrite Friday, if you want to go ahead and sign up and mark your calendars, is happening Friday, August 13th. This one's happening at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. So please feel free to join us then for that. Little bit of housekeeping. Please make sure if you're going to be doing anything distracting, just go ahead and turn your cameras off. I would appreciate that so we don't have any distraction. And just to manage expectations about what this is. Again, this is a space where I'll do a little bit of lecture. We will write together, but I don't do, back and forth questions and answers. We don't share our work in this forum. So if you're interested in getting to share the work that you've written, certainly come to my free class. I do that once a month on Saturdays. You can find information on soaringSoloStudios.com. And if you're wanting more in-depth discussion around anything you discover, you can always email me at soaringsoloartist@gmail.com to either ask questions or maybe book a consultation with me to apply these things to your specific story. Let's see, sorry, long list of things to say, so just making sure I'm not skipping anything important. I think that's pretty much it. So today we're going to be focusing on what is the climax of your solo show? What is the climax of your solo show? Last time we looked at the inciting incident, and the climax actually happens near to the end. It's not the very last thing, but it's the last major thing that's going to happen in your solo show. And everything in between is the rising action. So we have our inciting incident, all of our rising action leading up to the climax. And the climax is the turning point. That is often where the resolution becomes possible. The answer that we've been trying to get to with the dramatic question is resolved, or heading towards resolve because of this climactic moment. It's often the most exciting moment of the show. It doesn't necessarily have to be happy or sad, but it's a turning point. It is a crucial turning point, and we couldn't get to the resolve at the end without this thing happening. So I'll give you some examples so you can then apply your own stories to it. And I do want to say, it doesn't matter if you're writing fantasy fiction, autobiographical, biographical, the same principles apply. Whoever your protagonist is, whether it's you or some other character, the same playwriting structures apply. It's still, every good story needs a climax, regardless of who the protagonist is. So some examples in my own solo show in Z, We have Tessa, who is this 30-year-old virgin who's fundamentalist Christian, and she's in love with her transgender best friend. And the whole show, she's trying to figure out how to make sense of her spiritual beliefs, her religious beliefs, and this love that she has for her best friend. So the whole show is revolving around that. The rising action is Tessa's exploration of how those two things can coexist. The climactic moment, which was not a happy moment, the climactic moment is when the character of Robbie, her transgender best friend, is murdered in a transphobic act of violence. And so the whole story shifts at that point. Her whole world opens up and she realizes this opportunity that she missed to have true love. So that's where the resolve comes in the falling action after that moment. It was a huge moment in the show where everything changed, where her dramatic question, her search was answered. And it wasn't obviously a good moment for her, but that's where she was enlightened, where her paradigm shifted. And her resolve at the end could not have happened without that in that set of circumstances. I'll also use Fertile with Heather Dowling, who's on the call, a soaring solo instructor. I'll use her show as an example too. We have a fictional character, Jenny, who's in pursuit of having children, who wants to have a family. And early on, we have our inciting incident at a doctor's appointment where we discover that's not going to be necessarily easy or traditional. So the whole rising action is Jenny and her husband trying to figure out how to have a family. And they're meeting all these challenges along the way. So the climactic moment comes in one of the final discussions. I think it's the second to last scene of the show, when she and her husband, Matt, are having a intense discussion. And she figures out that she doesn't want to do this anymore. She doesn't want to be in this forced situation anymore. And she pushes pause and she lets it go. And then we have the falling action with her conversation with Gloria, her neighbor, where she lets her know, that maybe life might look a little different without kids, but that's where she's at. So again, without that scene with her husband, where they're having that conversation and coming to that agreement, where all of the things we've seen happen throughout the show are being discussed and analyzed, we couldn't get to the solution. So that's another example. You can also think of like Forrest Gump. I always use that film as an example because I think structurally it's very applicable to solo theater. When Jenny dies, the whole pursuit, he's trying to be with Jenny, he's doing everything in love of Jenny, and then she dies at the end of the show, and then we come into our falling action toward the end of the film. So that's another example, and one you might be a little more familiar with. So those are the basic principles of the climax. So hopefully you've gotten your brain wrapped around it a little bit. So I want you to think in terms of your own story, or again, a character that you're writing about in your story. Maybe it's a fantasy character, a celebrity, a historical figure. What is one moment that everything was leading to, where we had a turning point, where we couldn't come to the resolve without this good, bad, or ugly thing happening, whatever it is, we needed to have it to reach the resolve at the end of the play. So I know it's hard with our own lives to wrap our brains around that and go, well, what was climactic for me? And maybe it's deciding to get a divorce. Maybe it's deciding to leave a job that you've been stuck in. Maybe it's finally saying yes to the proposal. Guy meets girl, or guy gets girl, girl gets guy, whatever it is, girl gets girl, guy gets guy, whatever it is. Those types of moments, because in a romantic comedy, a lot of times the climax is when they finally get together. With Sleepless in Seattle, they finally get together nearly at the very end. So those are some examples, but I'm going to give you 8 minutes, and I just want you to let yourself brainstorm. This is not about getting anything right. It should feel messy. It's a draft, but I just want you to let yourself free write about what could be a climax of your solo show. Again, whether it's about you or a different character who's the protagonist, doesn't matter. What would be a climactic moment? And let yourself just free write about that. Some of you might be clearer on that than others. Some of you might have to write a bunch of different possibilities. That's fine. But we just want to do some exploration about what is the climax of your solo show. So I'm going to set my timer for 8 minutes, and I will let you know when your time is up. About 3 minutes left, 3 minutes. Just under a minute left. Okay, please wrap up your writing, and hopefully that exercise helped you get a little bit closer to what your climax might be, or at least explore some possibilities. I put some announcements in the chat while everyone was writing, so please take a look at those. I'm going to guide you through them as well. We have a lot happening in this community in the month ahead. Let's see. So next, my next free solo theater class, The Art of Creating the One-Person Play, is happening on Saturday, August 14th, 10 a.m. Pacific, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. All that is required is to RSVP through my website, soaringSoloStudios.com, under events or free stuff. Also, as I mentioned earlier, if you wanted to take a deeper dive into any of this with me one-on-one or in small groups or power pairs, or try our character intensive or work with Soaring Solo instructor Heather Dowling, you can email me for more information about any of that, soaringsoloartist@gmail.com. Also, I am kicking off the Revealed series, which is a virtual reading series. So if you have a script or are working toward having a script that you'd like to do a virtual reading of, just to get feedback from outside eyes, and you'd like help curating that, help promoting and being a part of this community in that way, you can email me for more information about that. It'll be kicking off in September and going through, let's see, the spring of 2022. So we're going to have months of new shows premiering as works in progress as part of this reading series. Doing a reading is such an important part of creating your show. Before you commit it to memory, before you design all the technical attributes, before you block it and do all these other things, a reading can be really helpful. So you see if there's any blind spots, if there's things people want to know more about, if there's things you can edit out and don't need, or things you need to add that you don't have. So a reading can be very crucial in the development. So feel free to email me more about the Revealed series if you want to be part of that, or at least hear more about it and see if it's a good fit for you. As I also mentioned earlier, Isolate, Meditate, Create, which is the meditation and visualization writing prompt sessions that I did all throughout the pandemic. There's 100 plus of them on my YouTube channel. I do recommend, in complement to these sessions, go back and watch Isolate, Meditate, Create, and write there too, so that you're continuing to use head and heart in the process of creating your solo shows. That balance is going to be really important. The next FREEWrite Friday is happening Friday, August 13th at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Eastern. RSVP the same way you did today. And last but not least, I am so excited to direct and develop 14 solo shows in the Hollywood Fringe Festival happening this August. So it's kicking off next week. I would love your support, whether you want to be there in person or you want to tune in via live stream. Both of those options will be available for all of the shows. I included the link to the page on my website, which features all of the 14 shows that are coming up. But it's going to be just a beautiful, dynamic, and eclectic group of stories. These shows could not be more different from one another, and so unique and special. So especially if you're in the early stages of creating a solo show, I don't think there's any better way to learn than go see a bunch of solo theater. You'll see what resonates, you'll see what does not resonate, and you'll learn more about your own aesthetic, and hopefully get inspired as well by seeing the work of other solo artists, and find community. Even though it is a one-person show, it takes a beautiful tribe to bring it all together. None of us could do it by ourselves. So I encourage you to be a part of the Fringe this summer, and maybe I'll see you there. So I am going to leave the chat up for just a few moments if you want to jot down any more of the announcements or say hi to one another in the chat, but I'm going to hop off. So enjoy the rest of your Friday, everyone. Thank you so much.